Right, now the cheapest rod in the range is the TX1. Obviously that's made up of 100 HPC carbon fiber. The TX5, this baby here, it's a slightly thicker rod than the TX9. It's made up with 200 HPC carbon and biofibers. And then, of course, we've got the flagship at this point in time, which is the TX9. And your TX9 rod is made up with 300 HPC carbon fiber and nanofibers mixed. So you'll actually feel, if you guys come forward, you'll actually feel the rod is not a smooth blank, because you've got the 200-ton HPC carbon fiber, and then it's whipped with biofibers. So you guys can just pass it along, just be careful. You break it, you pay it. Then obviously your TX9. The TX9 is a very, very slimline rod. I actually prefer using this rod. I like something very subtle, but something that's powerful that I can cast. This particular rod, I've already managed to cast up to about 176 meters, so it is possible to cast long range. We will do some casting, a casting clinic later on today. We will go through the actual motions of changing a relative okay casting action into a very good one. What I'm going to do now is just show you guys, I see there's a couple of newcomers to the game. So I'll quickly show you guys a basic method of tying a rig. So let me just get all the goods together. Neville, we'll just sit down here and we can, if there's people that want to come closer, you're more than welcome. Just don't go wow, because I am a bit of a tackle tart, so I've got a lot of goods with me. Now, you guys that follows me on Facebook and that's joined that group of mine, Carp Angling Tips and Advice, you'll notice that I'm a big lover of the German rig and the Ronnie rig and stuff like that. So I've got some presentations there at the back. The reason why I love those rigs is simply because it's very easy to make and it is super, super efficient. The hookups that I get with them is really, really top class. But for us not to confuse matters very much, I'm going to quickly go through, let's see, medium curve. Let's start with a size 6. These are the new Carp Spirit hooks, and for those of you that you've heard in the tackle magazines, people talk about a hook that is sticky sharp. Now these hooks are sticky sharp. That's sticky sharp. When it hooks and it doesn't tear out. You want something that penetrates and penetrates immediately without tearing. If a hook starts tearing in the mouth, you know that it's blunt. Okay, so it's important that you also know that there's certain hooks or certain hook patterns made for certain bait presentations. It's senseless that you use a chod hook with a coated braid, because the outturned eye actually gives you the wrong action in the mouth. If you use a chod hook, you're going to use a fluorocarbon or a monofilament. If you want to fish a braid or a coated braid or an uncoated braid, you look for a hook that's got a slightly inturned eye. Now, the nice thing with this is this has got a very, very slight 15-degree angle, and that's all you need to get a decent hook hold. So what we do, and I'm going to give you guys the standard short version of doing a rig. Now, first of all, I take silicone tubing. You'll notice that most of the Carp Spirit stuff, your silicone tubing comes in a 1.5 meter length. Now that 1.5 meter, I guarantee you, will last me for the next 5 years. So it's really good stuff. Right, so I use this thin splicing needle. and I put the piece of silicone tubing on the needle itself. Then I take my braid, and for this particular purpose, I'm going to use the Combi Soft, and I normally use about a 30 centimeter length. Then let me just take this out, because in Afrikaans we say om te meet is om te weet. So to make the perfect rig, I use 15 centimeters, and I use my stripper tool, and I strip 15 centimeters. Now I've cut it off. That's nice. Let's try again. Right. Strip that piece off, and what I do is, a lot of guys, if you watch the videos overseas, they only make a single granny knot. I don't like that, because at some point in time, if you fish heavily and you've got loads of runs, you're going to inevitably see that knot slipping. So I do a double granny knot. So I just go through the loop once. And if you battle and you can't see, then you take your splicing needle, and then you finish it off. Just hook it on, pull it through. Okay. Other tools. You'll see these baiting needles have got a thick piece at the bottom. Now the nice thing with that is, if you don't have your pulling tool with you, you can take the bottom piece. Right. So I've made a double granny knot. Right. Neville, will you just bring me one of those boilies there? Any bottom bait boilie, doesn't matter. Yeah, preferably bottom bait, yeah. That's it, yeah, those energy peach ones will do just fine. Thank you. Now what I do is, I'm a big believer in, when you do your first rig, to take an actual bait and put the bait on the hair, pull it through, but only pull it through so that the loop comes out on the other side. Then, where's my splicing needle? Where did I put my hook? There it is, yes. So I take the splicing needle, and I take that piece of silicone tubing, and I slide it onto the back end of the line, and then I just thread this through the middle of the silicone tubing. And also remember, if you fish bottom baits, a bottom bait is, the best thing with a bottom bait is to use what we call a claw rig. Now a claw rig, you will have your bait sit approximately like that. But my general test is, if I put the bait down and the hook lies flat, the length is spot on. And that will normally be about 5 millimeters from the bend of the hook to the top of the bait. If it is too short, the hook is going to sit right up. Now that's not right. Okay, so you pull it back. So you've got about a 5 millimeter gap. And if I let it lie down, you see the hook lies flat. When I draw, it's going to turn. So I want the hook to flip and turn every single time. And if I can pull it over my hand 10 times, and it flips and it turns and it hooks 10 times, then I know I've got confidence in catching a fish. So to finish the rig off, I just whip it around the shank 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 times. But 5 times plus is more than sufficient. And then I lock it with my thumb and my thumbnail and my forefinger nail. And I trap the braid on the back of the shank. All right. If it comes out the side, I don't have confidence in it. All right. So this is pretty much it. Now I can set it, and I know it's gonna hook. And I can pull it over my hand, and it's going to hook again. And I can pull it over my hand, it's going to hook again. So I can carry on like that, and I know if I cast this out, I'm going to catch a fish. Now to end it off at the back.
Voor je verder komt, daai knop wat jy gemaak het,
Yes.
jy sit hom eers deur die boogie en dan
Ja.
draai jy hom.
Ek sit hom van die rugkant af deur die voorkant.
Voorkant toe. Ja, nou
Okay, kom ek wys jou gou weer. Gaan hom weer 'n keer doen, want dis die nice ding, ek kan dit vir julle weer 'n keer repeat. Okay, so jy sien hy gaan deur die rugkant.
Yes.
Right. Dan hou ek die lyntjie vas en ek hoop hom om. 1 2 3 4 5 keer en ek trap hom met my vinger en ek druk hom weer van die rugkant af deur. Laat hy in die voorkant uitkom. En dan vat ek net my duim en my voorvinger en ek lok hom, dan weet ek daai knoop gaan nie gly nie. Nou is dit net 'n kwessie van trek hom reg en daar's die rig reg. Nou om hom af te finish aan die agterkant, ek maak hom gewoonlik vir kompeterende hengel 18 cm. So 18 cm is normally your go-to. If you fish slightly softer bottoms, then obviously you're going to go 20, 22, 24. I very seldomly go longer than 24 because if I cast, I need to be 100% assured that when I hit the clip, I want the rig to fall forward, it hits the bottom, and it kicks it away from the lead. And that's the general rule of thumb. So what I do, I just fold it double, and I make a 2-turn granny knot. And 2. But I don't pull it tight immediately. So what I do is, here's my pulling tool. I wet the knot, and it's critical. And then I pull it tight. All right, and I always leave a slight little tag end. That's your general standard bottom bait rig. Then all you do is you take a baiting stop. Let's see, we've got a brown, so we can play around with color. The nice thing is, all of these Carp Spirit bait stops is available in a wide variety of colors, so you can mix and match. So especially in crystal clear waters, we've got a syndicate water that's got really crystal clean water. You've got visibility 18 meters deep. So if something stands out of the ordinary, the fish just won't take it. And you can ask Neville. He doesn't blank very often, but he's also had the fair share of having a blank. Right, so you can pass that around, and then I'll quickly grab my PVA mix, and I'll show you guys how to make PVA bags. Now, what Neville told you earlier on is actually supposed to be a state secret. No. We're amongst family, so we can talk secrets. In here, I've got a mix that I make myself. So what I do, and you guys can write it down if you like, or you can just memorize it. I take boilies, so whatever boilie I like. Okay, so I would have, let's say I choose I want coconut boilies or I want tiger nut boilies. I take about 250 grams of boilies and I liquidize them. Put it in a bucket. Then I take tiger nut flour, half a kilo of crushed tiger nuts. I mix all of that up. I take 2 packets of Brazil nuts and I liquidize them. Now, Brazil nuts is one of those amazing stuff. Neville, you'll see in that little bucket there's some Brazil nuts. Right. Now, guys, tiger nuts is awesome, but Brazil nuts is super awesome. For the simple reason, I've taken these Brazil nuts from the packet, and I just skinned them, and then I soaked it in sweet corn. Now, it becomes glassy. But this is very, very light. In other words, it's almost critically balanced already. If I take this and I put it in that bucket of water, it's going to sink at a third of the rate that a tiger nut would sink. So if I put this on a hook, I only need to use a very, very small piece of foam, and I'll have a critically balanced bait. And the lovely thing with this is it actually retains a lot of oil. So, and it's the oil that actually makes it so light. So what I do with this, I liquidize some Brazil nuts, and I put coconut shavings in here. After the coconut shavings, I put oil in. Now this has got Ming oil in, and I've got coconut flavor in. Now you can send it around, just don't eat it, because it is that good. Ruik hom, right? Dit is absolutely amazing.
Kan dit eet?
En dit is net coconut flavor wat jy by 'n delicatessen koop, wat jy koek mee bak. Dis dit. Hy het 'n ongelooflike tekstuur, maar die triek van die trade is wanneer ons die PVA bag maak. En dit is wat Neville nou vir julle gesê het. Die hele amazing deel van hierdie tipe van approach. Ek sal nou byvoorbeeld dieselfde doen as wat Neville doen, maar ek sal nou 'n groot PVA bag vat. Want ek is een van daai ek is 'n pyn in die alie. Ek wil weet dat my riek daaronder, of ek in 36 of 46 voet hengel, wil ek weet daar is geen kans dat 'n stukkie takkie of 'n blaartjie of enigiets aan my hoek kan vashak wat vir my 'n vis kan kos nie. Nou wat ek doen is ek sit daai PVA bag aan. Ek weet dat dit vat 55 sekondes vir hierdie Soluron PVA om te dissolve. So as ek hom in 46 voet water insit, weet ek het tyd om my sinke reguit te maak, ek kan my riek reguit maak, en dan het my PVA bag nog nie gedissolve nie. En ek weet, elke tyd is 'n vis, guaranteed. So, net om vir julle te wys gou. Nou, hierdie mix het ek gisteraand aangemaak. En dis die beauty van hierdie mix kan nie sleg word nie, want ek gebruik glad nie water nie. So I don't mix it with water. So, put a handful of this in, and I compress my PVA bag. Because I want the bag to explode when it dissolves. So I wind it up nice and tightly so that some of the smaller pieces actually gets forced through the cavities. Now there's a variety of ways that you can actually put your hook onto the PVA bag. One thing is, if I have this little tag in, where's that rig that we sent around? Ja, hy het iemand gevang. Right. There's two ways. You can actually hook the bag on like that. And you can cast it as hard as you like, and it won't fall off. If I can get this through, let me cut it off. You can see, you can really pull it and it doesn't come off. The other method is my preferred one. Where's my other baiting needle? There we go. Now we can sit here and build rigs the whole day long. And I'll show you now just a quick, ouch. Right. What I do is, now I know that this has only got fine particles in. I can pull that hook into the PVA bag, and I know it's not going to catch on anything on the tip of the hook. So I just pull it in, and all that sticks out at the bottom is my boilie. Right. Now, let's quickly put it in the tank, and I'll show you guys how it dissolves. Now, what you're about to see, no one has ever put it in on camera. So this is the first time this particular thing is going to be shown. For the simple reason, this mix actually draws up into the water column. So it doesn't matter from which level the fish actually patrols that water column. They're going to come across the flavor that is drawn up from the coconut shavings and the Brazil nut pieces that I've got in the PVA mix. Roughly 55 seconds.
Would you put maybe those tiny little sinkers on the hook link just to...
When you've got your lead on,
Of course.
your lead actually pulls it back. So look at what happens.
Yes.
Now you've got pieces of particle that's actually suspended in the water and some that comes up. But some that comes up actually goes down again. So you've got that flavor that goes up and down in the water. Just look at that. Now, that whole column of water has got coconut essence soaked right through it, and it's been soaking for 12 hours. Now look at the suspension of some of the baits. Some of them have gone up. Look, some of them are coming down again. Now, tell me a carp that comes past won't suck that in. And when it sucks it in, he's got a whole mouthful of stuff coming in. And the very first thing that goes right in the back of his mouth is the hook. And look what happens when they come and mess around in it. One PVA bag. Now, if you go and overfeed your spot, you are going to mess up your spot. So we are very big believers in putting small amounts of bait very often when we do competitive carp angling, because where this is active in your feeding spot, it doesn't matter if there's nothing there, because they've got these pieces flying all in their faces all the time. And that actually makes them go completely ballistic. We've had fish, Loki and I have had fish so active in our swim that we actually hold the SA record for the most fish in an hour and a half on a SA national trials. Wow. We've had 68 fish, 178 kilos in 1 hour, 30 minutes.
Gilbert, and that will be absolutely perfect if you're fishing zigs. Small little white piece of zig.
Yes.
Precisely. Now what we do is, I use exactly the same mix for my zig fishing. The only thing is I put crushed tigers and I put some of Mark's coarse pellets in. Now the nice thing with the coarse pellets actually also just goes down and it lies there. It's there, but it's not food. Initially when you introduce it, it's particles. But later on, it is just something. Because the minute the fish sucks it in, it goes right through their system like a Ferrari. and it actually wants them to have more. So a little bit goes a long way. So what we do is we take that mix that I've just given you and I add coconut milk. A whole can of coconut milk. I put some of the Coniflex feed. I mix it up so I've got a sloppy mix. And I spom it out. Now you put 10 spoms out every 45 minutes, but you've got to be super accurate. And you've got to also check if the wind is in your face, you've got to overcast your spom to the back of your swim, so that stuff can float into your, what we call the target zone. So when we fish zigs, and I'll show you the lead setups now. When we fish zigs, I cast the zig further than my actual swim is, because nothing can mess up my hook bait. My hook bait is sitting, let's say, 20 foot off the bottom. Yeah. And we've had, Loki and I have won our zone in a world championship with fishing zigs only. All right, we've had 33 fish on zigs, and we've had 6 fish on the bottom where no one else had any fish on the bottom. Now what we do, let's say this is your feeding spot. So I overcast my zig, and I leave it for 10 minutes. I pick up the rod, and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I put it down. You don't slack line. The zig, you fish tight line. It's like a guitar string. It goes ping, then it's right. The reason for that is the fish picks up the bait, it lifts the lead, and the minute he lifts the lead kicks back. So you've got a serious drawback, and then the fish just takes off. All right? So what we do is we do that at least 4 times until you know you have gone past your target zone. You reel in, dip your zig, overcast it again. Because at some stage, coming through that target zone, you're going to encounter that fish. And we've even had fish on zigs at Bloemhof Dam. All right, so quickly just show you the various other, this is the Ronnie. Now, I've crimped it, and this is, I'm using the rigor mortis monofilament. It's a bristle filament, very, very stiff. I use the 25 pound because the 25 pound works nice with one of those 0.60 quarter crimp. And all I've got is, I've got a speed link with a ring on, and I just hook it onto the hook. But I first put 1.5 centimeters of string tubing onto the hook. Then I hook the speed link on, but I make sure that the hook part is on the top of the hook. So I've got no interference on this side. But look what this Ronnie does. It hooks instantly, and that's sticky sharp. Okay. Then I just end up at the bottom end where I've crimped it. I just put a piece of tungsten putty. And look how it sits. Then I've got the German rig. This is one of my all-time favorites. Quentin Lowe and myself fished Rudekoppies Dam, that Rudekoppies Bonanza, a couple of months ago. And we had 21 fish for the weekend on this particular rig with this particular hook. Not a single drop fish. And it's a wild water. So Neville, you must try and do that on your. We just used the big tiger nut with a piece of foam on, and it just sat like that. The nice thing is that foam doesn't absorb any water, and you can leave it out there for the entire weekend. And the minute the fish sucks it up, he blows the bait away. So that's a critical blowback rig. And because you've got the big medium curve hook, there's no ways you'll ever get a hook pull. And you can pull this fish as hard as you like. It doesn't come out. All right.
And would you use it mostly in soft, hard bottoms, weedy situations?
The nice thing with the German is you can fish it on pretty much any bottom. All I do is I just vary the length of my hook link. So this was the Rudekoppies one. We had a 24 centimeter hook link. Worked like a dream. And when you present it, it actually sits beautifully. Now you'll see that it actually moves down. But the minute the fish sucks, it actually pulls the bait, which pulls the hook. And the minute the hook goes into the mouth and the fish blows, the hook point drops. And the minute the hook point drops, you've got a hook hold. And we've landed every single fish in the bottom of the lip. And that's what we are aiming at doing in any event. You don't want to catch a fish here, and you don't want to catch them in the top. So by using these methods, you are guaranteed of nailing them in the bottom. The last rig setup that I like using is the Hinge chod. So it's just a stiff coated braid, the combi stiff, with the rigor mortis, and I steam it to sit in that position. And it always stays in that position. But I don't stretch them when I put them in my rig wallet. I actually put them like that, flat in the rig wallet. I put a pin in there and I put a pin in there and I leave it. You can also store them like this by hooking them through the eye. Just leaving them like that, putting them in a bank bag, and they always retain their shape. And that is so critical for big fish, for big carp fishing, because the minute the fish sucks, it goes around the lip. So you always catch them in the bottom lip. This is ideal for fishing weed. A Hinge chod is great because you can actually let it if you use a sliding weight, don't hold when it hits the water, don't hold the weight down. When it hits the water, leave it so that the lead can slide away from the rig. And that gives you a very, very gentle presentation. And I can throw it in here and you'll see every single time a perfect presentation. And that's what it is for me. If I cannot produce a perfect presentation, I don't bother because I know I'm wasting my time. came.